Gonzaga University, the school I went to through high school and then to Gonzaga University, and I was studying law part-time.
Bing Crosby, born Harry Lillis Crosby Jr. on May 3, 1903, was a name that carried weight in both the worlds of music and film. For decades, his velvety baritone voice and charming persona captivated audiences around the globe. Whether it was in his radio broadcasts, hit singles, or major Hollywood films, Crosby left an indelible mark on 20th century entertainment. But behind the success and adoration lay a far more complex figure whose personal struggles and darker secrets would ultimately cast a shadow over his public image. From the rise of his career to the difficulties in his personal life, Bing Crosby's story is one of both triumph and tragedy. The birth of an icon. Born in Tacoma, Washington, Bing Crosby's journey to fame began in the 1920s when he discovered his love for music. Initially aiming to pursue a career in law, Crosby's fate changed after discovering a photograph of a famous singer in a magazine, which inspired him to abandon his law school ambitions. By the mid-1920s, Crosby was already performing as part of the Rhythm Boys, a jazz vocal trio. His smooth and captivating voice quickly set him apart, making him a rising star in the world of music. In the early days of his career, Crosby's voice was often compared to that of other jazz greats like Louis Armstrong, but his versatility allowed him to navigate between a wide array of musical genres, including jazz, swing, pop, and traditional ballads. By the early 1930s, he was a household name, known for his polished yet approachable style. His break into the world of film, however, would make him an even more recognizable figure and elevate him to legendary status. Hollywood's golden age. Crosby's first major film breakthrough came in the early 1940s when he starred in Going My Way, 1944, a role that would earn him an Academy Award for Best Actor. His natural charm and comedic timing made him a beloved figure on the silver screen. In addition to his acting career, Crosby became known for his musical contributions, recording a staggering number of hits that became synonymous with the American experience. Some of Crosby's most iconic songs include White Christmas, which went on to become the best-selling single of all time, and Swinging on a Star. Both tracks were emblematic of his ability to evoke a sense of warmth and nostalgia in listeners. His voice became a soundtrack to the American holiday season, cementing his place as the quintessential crooner. Throughout his career, Crosby's smooth vocal style made him a symbol of sophistication, even as his music remained accessible to the masses. The perils of fame. While Crosby was experiencing success on the professional front, his personal life was anything but perfect. His first marriage to actress Dixie Lee was fraught with difficulties from the beginning. Though the couple shared 4 children, Gary, Philip, Dennis, and Lindsay, their marriage became increasingly strained over time. Dixie Lee, who had once been a promising film star in her own right, found herself battling personal demons that threatened to unravel her family life. Dixie's struggles with alcoholism played a significant role in the deterioration of their marriage. Despite Crosby's growing fame and fortune, the couple's domestic life was filled with turmoil. As his wife descended deeper into addiction, Crosby found himself increasingly isolated from her, seeking solace in his music and the adoration of his fans. Although he remained committed to their family, the pressures of being both a superstar and a husband left Crosby emotionally distant and often absent. Crosby's work schedule, filming up to 4 movies a year, meant he spent little time with his children. As a result, his relationships with his sons grew distant. Crosby's strict approach to parenting led him to send his children to boarding schools in an effort to shield them from the perceived dangers of Hollywood life. However, His efforts to protect his children from the excesses of fame inadvertently left them feeling abandoned and unloved. His controlling nature, compounded by his emotional detachment, created a strained dynamic within the Crosby family. Dixie Lee's tragic decline. In January 1945, Dixie Lee's health took a tragic turn when she collapsed from what was initially thought to be a respiratory infection. However, whispers in the press suggested that she had overdosed on sleeping pills, though this was never confirmed. The uncertainty surrounding her death added to the tragedy. At just 40 years old, Lee passed away, leaving behind a broken family and a husband who struggled with his own emotions. In the wake of Dixie's death, Crosby was left to cope with profound grief. He had not been by her side when she passed away, as he had been away filming a movie in Paris. In the chaotic aftermath of her death, the media swarmed the funeral, turning it into a spectacle that only deepened Crosby's sorrow. Despite his public persona as a smooth and charming entertainer, Crosby was deeply affected by the loss, but he kept his emotions hidden from the public eye. His son Gary later revealed the darker side of Crosby's family life, exposing the emotional toll that his father's absence had on their family. In his memoir, Gary described how his father's fame and personal struggles contributed to a sense of neglect and disconnection between them. The image of Crosby as the perfect father and family man was shattered, replaced by a more complex and flawed figure. For many, this revelation redefined their perception of the man behind the voice. The affair with Joan Canfield. While Dixie Lee's health declined, Crosby found himself seeking comfort elsewhere. In the late 1940s, Crosby became involved in a secret affair with actress Joan Canfield. This affair was kept under wraps for years, with Crosby's personal life remaining a closely guarded secret. However, after his death, actress Patricia Neal revealed the affair in her memoir, As I Am, shedding light on Crosby's extramarital relationship. Though Crosby was devoted to his wife, Dixie, he was also deeply in love with Canfield, which led to a conflict between his personal desires and his Catholic values. Crosby struggled with guilt and loyalty to his wife, yet he remained with Dixie, even as her health worsened and their marriage became increasingly strained. The affair with Canfield, along with other rumored relationships, painted a picture of a man torn between his public image and private desires. The complications of Crosby's second marriage. After Dixie's death, Crosby embraced bachelorhood, dating a number of famous women, including Grace Kelly and Pat Sheehan. However, it was actress Catherine Grant who eventually captured his heart, and the two were married in 1957. Crosby's second marriage brought with it a new set of challenges. Catherine had 3 children from a previous relationship, and Crosby's relationship with his 4 older children remained strained. His son, Nathaniel Crosby, later remarked that his father seemed out of touch with the realities of raising children, suggesting that Crosby had not fully understood the complexities of family life until later in his life. Despite his newfound love for Catherine, Crosby's personal life continued to be complicated by the ghosts of his past. His relationship with his first family remained distant, and his growing sense of guilt over his failure to connect with his children weighed heavily on him. Crosby's efforts to balance his new family with his complicated history proved to be a difficult task, and the emotional scars from his earlier years continued to affect him in profound ways. The deterioration of Crosby's career. As Crosby aged, the world of entertainment changed around him. The rise of new stars like Elvis Presley and the Beatles marked the end of Crosby's dominance in the music world. In the 1960s, he found himself overshadowed by younger, more contemporary acts, and his popularity began to wane. Despite this, Crosby remained a beloved figure in American culture, particularly for his iconic holiday music. Yet, the years of grueling work and emotional turmoil had taken a toll on his health and well-being. In 1977, Crosby was honored with a special celebration marking 50 years in show business. However, what should have been a joyous occasion nearly turned tragic when Crosby suffered a near-fatal heart attack during the event. The scare served as a wake-up call for the aging star, reminding him of his mortality and the need to slow down. Bing Crosby's last years and legacy. In the years leading up to his death, Crosby's health continued to decline, and he began to focus more on his family life. However, his past mistakes and regrets continued to haunt him. His strained relationships with his children and the emotional toll of his earlier life left a complex legacy that would be remembered long after his passing. Crosby's death in 1977 at the age of 73 shocked the world, and his passing marked the end of an era in entertainment. Despite the darker aspects of his life, Bing Crosby's legacy remains firmly entrenched in the fabric of popular culture. His music, particularly songs like White Christmas, continues to be cherished by generations of fans. Yet, his personal struggles, from the breakdown of his marriage to Dixie Lee to his troubled relationship with his children, serve as a reminder that even the brightest stars can be overshadowed by their own demons. Crosby's life is a story of both remarkable achievements and deep regrets, and his journey offers a powerful lesson about the complexities of fame, family, and the pursuit of happiness. As time passes, the legend of Bing Crosby continues to live on, both through his music and the stories of those who knew him. While the man behind the smooth crooner persona may have had his flaws, there is no denying that his impact on the entertainment world will endure for generations to come. His story, both triumphant and tragic, will forever be a part of the American cultural landscape. The last performance. A sudden fall. Bing Crosby's final televised performance was a momentous occasion. For decades, he had enchanted audiences with his smooth voice, impeccable timing, and remarkable presence. But just as the curtain was about to fall on his career, fate intervened in the most tragic of ways. After his final bow, Crosby was making his way off stage when disaster struck. As he moved toward the exit, his footing faltered and he tumbled to the ground, falling off the stage. The incident was more than just a misstep. It was a harrowing moment that left Crosby with a serious injury. Though he instinctively grabbed hold of a piece of scenery as he fell, it was not enough to prevent the injury. Crosby had ruptured a disc in his spine, an injury so severe it left him unable to walk. Mary Crosby, his daughter, would later comment that the fall should have killed him, but somehow, miraculously, he survived. The pain and trauma of that fall marked the beginning of a slow but inexorable decline for the aging star. Despite this setback, Crosby's determination to carry on remained, but the incident was a foreshadowing of the greater tragedy that would soon unfold. A fateful journey to Spain. On October 13, 1977, Crosby set off on what was supposed to be a relaxing trip to Spain. Having spent most of his life in the limelight, Crosby yearned for some quiet time away from the demands of stardom. He intended to play some golf and engage in hunting, activities he adored, as a way to unwind and recharge. It was a time for him to escape the pressures of fame, at least for a while, and bask in the simplicity of his favorite hobbies. At 74 years old, Crosby was still remarkably active and in relatively good health, considering his age. His spirits were high as he arrived on the Spanish coast, looking forward to the peace and quiet he hoped the trip would provide. While on the golf course that afternoon, Crosby was in especially good spirits. He had just finished a round of golf when a group of construction workers working nearby recognized the legendary crooner. They called out to him, and in true Crosby fashion, he gladly agreed to entertain them with an impromptu performance. Crosby was always a performer, and his voice still had the charm and resonance that had captivated audiences for decades. On that day, he serenaded the workers with his famous rendition of "Strangers in the Night." Little did anyone know this would be his final performance, one last moment of magic from a man whose career had spanned generations. Despite attempts to revive him, Crosby was gone. His death, as swift as it was, left the world stunned. The man who had charmed the globe with his smooth voice, the man who seemed so invincible, had been taken in an instant. At 74, Crosby had lived a full life, but it was clear that his story, one of remarkable highs and devastating lows, had come to a tragic and untimely end. The shocking revelation: Gary Crosby's memoir. Though Bing Crosby's death had been a blow to his millions of fans, the legacy of his personal life would soon unravel in the most unexpected and painful of ways. The public had long regarded Crosby as the picture of the wholesome, all-American father, gentle, loving, and eternally kind. However, in 1983, 6 years after Crosby's passing, the truth about his personal life would be revealed to the world in a way no one could have anticipated. Gary Crosby, Bing's son, published a bombshell memoir titled "Going My Own Way." In it, he made startling accusations about his father, accusing him of being emotionally and physically abusive. The revelations shattered the public image of Bing Crosby and painted a portrait of a man far darker than anyone had ever imagined. Gary's account was nothing short of harrowing. He described a father who would criticize his weight, belittle his appearance, and use a metal-tipped belt to punish him. He recounted how, after weigh-ins, Crosby would berate him for not meeting his expectations, using physical punishment as a form of discipline. Gary's accusations shocked the world, but it did not end there. His brother, Lindsey Crosby, corroborated the claims, lending further weight to Gary's revelations. The loss of Lindsey was another devastating blow to the Crosby family. It became evident that the family, despite its public image of perfection, had been fractured by personal tragedies and unresolved pain. The toll on the children continued, and the story of Bing Crosby's legacy became more complicated with each passing year. Dennis Crosby and the family's continued tragedy. The heartbreak didn't end with Lindsey. Dennis Crosby, another of Bing Crosby's sons, was also caught in the downward spiral that seemed to plague the family. Dennis was only 56 when he ended his own life, a tragic event that seemed to be the culmination of years of pain and anguish. His brother Gary recalled how their mother's death had greatly affected Dennis, dimming his spirit and leaving him bereft of joy. He said Dennis had been trying to reunite with their mother's spirit ever since. But the deeper the Crosby family drama became, the further he seemed to fall into despair. The tragedy that befell the Crosby family didn't stop there. Philip Crosby, another son of Bing, vehemently rejected the accusations made by Gary. He lashed out, accusing his brother of seeking fame and money at their father's expense. Philip's anger towards Gary ran so deep that he swore, "To my dying day, I'll hate Gary for dragging Dad's name through the mud." Despite his harsh words, it was clear that the Crosby family was divided by resentment, pain, and unresolved conflict. The once close family had splintered, and the public revelations only deepened the divide. A ray of hope, Nathaniel Crosby and the others. While many of Bing Crosby's children struggled with personal demons, not all followed the same tragic path. Nathaniel Crosby, Bing's son from his second marriage, chose a different route. Rather than pursuing a career in entertainment, Nathaniel became an accomplished golfer, following in his father's footsteps in a more positive and uplifting way. Nathaniel won the U.S. Amateur Championship in 1981, and his success brought a sense of pride to the Crosby family during a time of great turmoil. Mary Crosby, Bing's daughter, found fame in her own right, becoming a familiar face on the hit television show Dallas. She was one of the few Crosby children to find lasting success in the entertainment industry, and her career helped restore some balance to the family's tarnished image. Bing Crosby's personal life and the Pat Sheen scandal. Despite the public adoration Bing Crosby received, his personal life after the death of his wife was fraught with complications. In the late 1950s, he briefly dated a model named Pat Sheen. Though this may not have seemed particularly scandalous at the time, the story took a surprising and complicated turn when, in 1958, Pat Sheen married Bing's son, Dennis Crosby. Yes, Pat Sheen had first dated Bing Crosby and then married his son, creating a scandal that shocked many. Shortly after their wedding, Dennis found himself embroiled in a paternity lawsuit filed by a woman named Marilyn Miller Scott, who claimed Dennis was the father of her daughter. The case was a public embarrassment for both Dennis and Bing, and tensions between the Crosby family and Scott only escalated. In an unfortunate turn of events, Bing Crosby allegedly never met the granddaughter at the center of the paternity scandal, which added yet another layer of heartbreak and drama to the already troubled family history. A legacy tarnished by scandal. The story of Bing Crosby's family is one of triumph, but also one of great tragedy. From the public adoration of Crosby's talent to the private battles faced by his children, his legacy is one that is far more complex than it first appeared. His image as the picture-perfect father and entertainer was shattered by the revelations of abuse and dysfunction within his family. While some members of the Crosby family went on to find success in their own right, others were left to deal with the personal fallout of a broken family. Ultimately, Bing Crosby's legacy will be remembered not only for his extraordinary talent, but also for the pain and scandal that marked his final years and the years that followed.